How's it going, guys? Randall, aka Shizukats here on the Tressa's Collectibles channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at Nazarick Tomb of the Undead Volume 2, aka Overlord. This is the latest expansion set to be introduced into Weiss Schwarz. I'm sure you guys have been enjoying our extended Hololive block over the last few weeks, but now we're going to be getting into a brand new set with a whole bunch of brand new threats. So this second set of Overlord, or Nazarick rather, is going to be introducing some really cool decks into the metagame, one of which I'm sure some of you are aware of, as it's been doing quite well in the Japanese metagame, and well enough in order to get restricted on one of the recent restriction lists. So we're going to be taking a look at that deck, as well as some of the other cool new decks that Nazarick Volume 2 has to offer, and hopefully teaching you guys a bit about how to play or combat some of these cool decks. As always, we're going to be taking a look at some of the really popular characters cards as well. I'm sure some of you guys in the comments are going to be having a bit of a waifu war, as there are a lot of really popular female characters in this set, especially Albedo, who we know is one of the most popular characters, not only in Nazarick, but also in Weiss Schwarz. A lot of people looking out for those Albedo sign cards. And so we're going to be taking a look at some of their cards and strategies as well. We're going to be doing our standard 2 booster boxes today, and before we get into it, as always, we have to take a look at our beautiful case topper playmat. We get one of these in every case of 18 booster boxes, and this is the Stitched Edge variety that comes with all of the sets that are not English original sets. All right, now without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into our first box. Okay, so starting off our first box, let's go ahead and discuss the expected ratios for a booster box and booster case of Nazarick Volume 2. As always, these are just expected ratios. They are not guaranteed, so just take these with a grain of salt. So this is a standard 100 card 10 RR set, and we're going to be looking to get 4 or 5 RRs in each booster box of 16 packs. And every booster box is also expected to contain 1 or 2 foil cards. And as far as the case ratios go, we're expecting to get 3 SPs in every sealed case, and the secret rares are not guaranteed in a booster case as well, or I think a master case either. Not 100% sure. But yeah, just the secret rares, there are 2 of, which are the Albedo as well as the Ainz. Both of those use some of the light novel art, I believe, which has some very, very nice artwork. We'll go ahead and flash a picture of both of those on screen right now, and hopefully we can pull one of those in one of these 2 boxes. But without further ado, let's get into our first box. So for our box topper promo, we have 3/2 Shaltir. There's a 2 or less early play, and on play, you can draw 1 and she gains 2k until end of turn. So not exactly the most popular kind of early play profile. Typically, when you want something that that is going to get you a card, you want it to have a little bit more selectivity, something with like maybe on-play search, on-play salvage, or even an on-play top check 3 or top check X. So not one of the most popular cards to see play. All right, let's get right into our first pack. So we've got a lot of interesting archetypes in this set that feature some of the events of the later seasons of, the O word, Nazarick. But especially with the cover art, we do see the Dark Young, aka the Goats, and those are going to be a big part of a central strategy for a very powerful and popular build of Nazarick. So let's go ahead and get right into our first pack. We have Nabe, we have Sebas. This is an anti-change memory bomb, so this is a pretty nice card if you want to try to use it to address some early play strategies. Maybe use this against Alice, which is still running around in the English metagame at the time of this recording. Here we have our best boy Hamsuke, and he has a 4k marker ability. Renner, always up to something no good. Always up to no good. And here we have our first double R in our first pack, which is the Albedo Brainstorm. So this is a tap self salvage brainstorm, one of many in this set actually. And she has a very nice secondary effect where at the start of the Encore step, if you have a climax in play, you may draw a card, and if you do, discard a card. So this can be a really nice tool for decks that run a lot of like gold bar climaxes or pants climaxes, as you can convert those pluses when you get those climaxes into your hand, you can convert those into other cards. Although even if you're not playing either of those two climaxes, this is just a generally good card overall, as it allows you to get some extra filtering, which is really, really nice. So definitely a nice double R to pull out of this set. All right, here we have the 2/1 Yuri. This is a really strong card that sees play in the most popular build, the Goats build. And you can honestly play this in any build of Nazarick. So it has the same abilities as a 2/1 Kotori from Day to Live Volume 2, which is if you have 4 or more other characters, so you have a full board, she goes from 4k up to 10k power. Additionally, when she's placed on stage from hand, if you have 2 or more other characters, you get to draw 2 cards and discard 2 cards. And when she's placed on stage, if you have 4 or more other characters, which, again, full board, then you get to take a character from your waiting room and put it into stock. So it allows her to refund the cost that you used to put her into play. So essentially, you play her last into a full board, you get a 10k beater, you get to filter 2 cards in and out of your hand, and you get to refund the stock, essentially letting her be a 2/0. So really, really powerful card. And one thing that I do want to note about the second effect, the draw 2, ditch 2, is that if you choose to use that effect, you must draw 2 cards. You cannot draw up to 2. So you're either going to be drawing 0, discarding 0, or you're going to be drawing 2 and discarding 2. And so that is kind of an important point to make about the ability. There have been times where I've wanted to just draw 1 card in order to not refresh, but unfortunately you do have to draw either 0 or 2. Okay, next up we have the War Biken Lord. This is definitely a very spicy event. So it's a 2/0 event. It says you sack one of your characters to stock, so you get +1 stock out of it, and then you reveal the top card of your deck. If that card shares a trait with the character that you sent to stock, you get to summon it from the top of your deck to the stage for free, which is a really interesting way to cheat out higher level characters. So like you could bring out a level 3 with this effect. And so the way that this card actually sees use in a very interesting version of the Goats Ainz deck is that you actually use a level 0 Ainz that shuffles 2 characters back into your deck. You use that to shuffle level 3 Ainz into your deck. And then you use a level 0 Cocutus rare, which has top check to rearrange. And then you rearrange it so that the 3/2 is on top of your deck. Oh, I forgot to mention, you want to mill down to 1 card in deck first. So you mill down to 1, you shuffle back 2 copies of the Ainz, and then you use the level 0 Cocutus to rearrange the top 2, make sure that the Ainz is on top, and then you use War Biken Lord to summon the Ainz off of the top, guaranteed. So that's a really cool combination, and one of the many ways that you can play the Goats build. There are a lot of variations, this War Biken Lord variation being one of them, but the most popular one that we're going to be looking at later on the channel is going to be the one that runs the level 1 Door Shaltier combo, which is a new double R out of this set. Okay, we have the 2/1 Renner. This is a legacy support card, actually, for the 3/2 Evil Eye from the first set. And so she is a 2k assist. You can rest her to force your opponent to mill 5 cards from the top of their deck if they have 5 or less cards in their waiting room. So this sets up for the this potentially sets up for an Evil Eye climax combo where you shuffle some of the cards from your opponent's waiting room back into their deck. And the most interesting effect, which is the legacy support one, is at the beginning of your climax phase, if you have only 1 copy of this Renner in play, it doesn't work if you have multiples. You can pay 1, discard 1, and then all of your 3/2 Evil Eyes, you can use both of their effects with just 1 proc of the climax combo. So normally with the 3/2 Evil Eye, you have to choose between either an Icy Tail type effect or a Shuffle Back effect. And so with the Renner 2/1, using the ability, you are allowed to use both of them, which can result in some very deadly climax combo turns. So this is a really cool legacy support card. And from the very limited amount of Overlord that I have watched, Evil Eye is a character that I have quite enjoyed watching. So definitely would be down to explore the Blue Roses deck a bit. Okay, we have Mare with a 4K beater. Can't use events or backups. This is a very popular beater profile just because the downside is a lot of the times it doesn't mean anything, especially not at level 0 where you're not going to be playing events or backups anyway. All right, let's see what else we got. We have Enri, one of the very interesting new archetypes involves Enri cards and the Goblin cards of Carne Village. This is not necessarily one of those cards, but there are cards in the set for the Enri and Goblin archetype that will allow you to just flood the board with a bunch of those goblins. Okay. Let's see. So for our uncommon, we have a Brainstorm, a top check 3, add 1 Brainstorm. This one sees a little bit of play as well in some of the variations of the Goats deck, as it allows you to very quickly mill through your deck. So apart from being a top check 3, add 1 Brainstorm, it also has the effect where when you reverse one of your opponent's characters, you get to give one of your characters 500 power. And so that can be pretty useful for getting over some of your opponent's boards. The 500 power interval, obviously not small, not very large by itself, but if you're able to get multiple reverses and stack multiple instances of 500 on your characters, then it could make the difference between clearing your opponent's board or not. And we have just a standard 2/2 10k hand encore Ainz, but this is not a card that we're going to be seeing very much in the standby builds, as we have a very cool strategy to implement in those decks, apart from just sending out a vanilla 2/2 10k hand encore. For our rare, we have a level 0 Ainz. This is a support card that lets you subtract power from one of your opponent's characters, subtract 1k from an opponent's front row by resting him, and also at the beginning of your climax phase, you get to buff one of your characters by 1000 power as well. So it essentially allows you to buff 2 lanes at once, but in reality, you're buffing one of your lanes and negging power on one of your opponents. So that sometimes comes with the added benefit of being able to snipe some of your opponent's characters off the board if they have 1000 or less power, because if a character's power drops to 0, it just goes straight to the waiting room. All right. Next up, we have a Sebas that works with a 2RA vanilla. Not the most exciting profile. Okay. We have a Shaltir that can get a whole bunch of power with her on-play effect. She gets 1,000 times the number of your grotesque race or Nazarick characters, potentially letting her go all the way up to 7k power, but not the most popular choice. It doesn't really offer too much in terms of like overall utility. It's just kind of a big beat stick. Okay, and we have our first SR of the box. We have the 3/2 Shaltir, so let's go ahead and get a sleeve on that. This Shaltir is a new support option for standby builds. So she has a 2k assist to all characters in front of her. Okay, this happens every time I try to put cards in the top loader. I can't find out which side is the opening, but there we go. So this Shaltir is a 2k assist, and additionally, if you play her from hand instead of bringing her out via standby, you have a discard 1 heal to stock. And additionally, she has a non-climax combo finisher effect where at the start of your climax phase, you can pay 3, discard 2 in order to burn 5. And so this is not an ability that you're going to be using a whole lot, because usually you want to invest your stock in hand into other finisher abilities. But in the standby deck, the new 3/2 Albedo finisher doesn't actually use any stock for her finisher effect, so you can go ahead and use it on the Shaltir for the burn 5 if you so wish. So pretty cool card. And then also this SR does have an alternate art from the normal version. So we'll go ahead and take a look at the normal version when we hopefully eventually pull it. Speaking of the standby deck, for our next uncommon, we have the 2/2 Albedo counter. I'm actually going to go ahead and leave this off to the side, and we'll come back to that when we have some of the other cards in that Albedo climax combo package. And we have Momonga, who has a mill X backup. You can mill X cards from the bottom of your opponent's deck, where X equals the number of your grotesque race or humanoid race characters you have. And for another standby card, we actually pulled the climax as well. We have the 1/1 Ainz climax combo, as well as his corresponding standby climax. This is a very ordinary card where it's just a 1/1/7/5 without hand encore, and then he has the climax combo. When you reverse the battle opponent, you can salvage 1. So very ordinary card, but at the same time, we do have ways to buff him up to make him harder to kill. to make up for the fact that he doesn't have any hand on core to allow him to stay around more easily. Okay, we have a level 0 Ainz. This is one that I was referring to earlier with the level 2 event, the Bicon Lord. So this level 0 Ainz has on play, you can shuffle back 2 characters into your deck in order to make it so that his soul does not decrease when he side attacks this turn. And then also when he attacks, you get to give a character 1500 power until end of turn. So this is what you're going to want to be using to shuffle back the 3/2 Ainzes into your deck in order to summon them off the War Bicon Lord. And then you want to utilize the fact that this does not decrease soul for side attacking for the turn, so that you can side attack to play around a potential anti-change counter that your opponent might play in order to address the 3/2 Ainz that you just brought out. So this is definitely a card that you will see in this variation of the deck. Okay, here we have a Shell Tier Vanilla. Still printing vanilla package cards like the Tuare 1/0 that I mentioned earlier that works with the level 0 Sebas. This one right here. And this Shell Tier is another one of those. Speaking of Shell Tier, we have our next double R, the 1/0 Shell Tier Climax combo with a Door. So this is one that is part of the popular build of the Goats deck that uses the Door Climax. So this card gains 2k power during your turn, bringing her up to 6k, and then she has a Climax combo Time Machine effect. It is a Pseudo Fever effect, so at the end of this card's attack, if your opponent's character across from her is reversed, or your opponent does not have a character in the slot across from her, so that can be accomplished by like direct attacking, or if your opponent has an ability that sends itself to like memory or sends itself somewhere else, you get to salvage a character, and you may also Time Machine, so you can send this to memory, and then at the start of your next turn, you get to bring it back, and that allows you to get a +2 off of a single instance of the Climax combo. +1 from the salvage, and +1 from the Shell Tier coming back on your next turn. So this is a pretty nice card, and it comes with, of course, a Door trigger, giving you a lot of consistency and hand selectivity if you do trigger those climaxes. So pretty good combo overall. And here we have the Brainstorm for the Carne Village deck. During your turn, if you have 5 or more hand, you have assist 500, and then also a tap self salvage Brainstorm. This is probably the card that you're going to have in your back row in order to utilize events that require having an Enri on your board. So you're going to want to be running 4 copies of this in your Carne Village deck so that you can get one as early as possible and camp it in your back row in order to utilize those cards. Okay, here we have a very interesting 1/1 Shell Tier. So first of all, she has the effect where if all of your characters are Grotesque Grace or Nazarick, then she gets +1500, bringing her up to 6k. And if the character across from her is a cost 0, then she cannot become reversed. This is very similar to a card that we've seen before in sets like Quintessential Quintuplets, but her other 2 effects are very, very strange. So when her battle opponent becomes reversed, you can put the top card of your deck face up underneath her as a marker. Now, keep in mind that it's optional. That's very important that it's optional. Her third effect says, at the beginning of your main phase, if you are at level 2 or higher and she has a marker underneath her, you must send her to Waiting Room. Then you choose up to 1 copy of a 3/2 Shell Tier Climax combo from your hand and put it into this card's Sage position. So it allows you to early play a 3/2 at the cost of losing your Shell Tier. So if you don't have the 3/2 Shell Tier in your hand, then you kind of just -1 for free. And so you need to be very careful about whether or not you're going to marker with this effect. If you don't have the Shell Tier ready to go, then you definitely don't want to be using the marker effect. In that case, you can just keep her around as a 1/1 that cannot be reversed by cost 0s, which is always a pretty good effect if you're in matchups where your opponent is going to be playing a lot of costless characters. But if you are able to bring out that 3/2 Shell Tier, and potentially you could even use the Climax combo of that Shell Tier, which is a restand effect. So it would allow you to put a lot of pressure on your opponent at level 2, since you are bringing out a level 3 restand earlier than you are supposed to be. All right, moving right along. Okay, a very interesting Aura level 2. This Aura says that if she's in the front row center slot, she gets +7,000 and +2 soul during your turn, making her a 13k 3 soul attacker. Very funny card. Okay, we have a 1/0 Evil Eye with a new Climax combo. I believe this is with I believe this is with a Pants Climax combo. So during your turn, if you have another blue or Raven black character, this gets plus 1500 power. And on reverse, if you have 2 or more other blue or Raven black characters, you get to top check 3, add 1 without showing to your opponent, and send the rest to waiting room. So this can be a nice way to like loop Climax combo, for example, as it allows you to potentially add climaxes to your hand. This could also add events to your hand if you have some pretty interesting events in your deck as well. All right, now we have one of the cornerstone pieces of the Ainz deck, which is the 1/1 support. We're going to go ahead and keep this one off to the side as well, as this is part of the package of cards that we're going to want to look at once we have all of the pieces together. Okay, let's take a look. We have level 3 Killer Shaltir, who is also a 3k field counter. We have that vanilla. We have 1/0 Ainz. This one is just a buffer, I believe, right? Yeah, so this is a Shimakai that also gets 1000 during the opponent's turn. Was that always opponent's turn? I could have sworn it was during your turn. Okay. And then moving along, we have a 1/0 event. This is a pretty spicy one. It's basically like a Professor Oak kind of card from Pokemon, where you discard your entire hand and then you draw X cards, where X is the number of cards you discarded plus 1. So basically it allows you to retain the same amount of hand size. Then you put the top card of your deck into clock and then give a character 1k power until end of turn. So yeah, definitely a spicy card. You're getting rid of your entire hand and replacing it with some random new cards off the top. Not a very popular choice, especially considering it's yellow. Yellow is not one of the most popular colors, at least not to run at level 1 in Overlord. So not a card you see very often. And for our rare, we have level 0 Cocutus. This is another piece of the level 2 event deck. This is the one that you're going to be using to top check 2 and rearrange in order to ensure that your 3/2 Ainz is on top of the deck. And in addition, this also has a very powerful other ability, one that we have seen a very similar ability recently in Hololive Volume 2. So when this Cocutus attacks, you choose one of your other characters with Grotesque Race or Nazarick trait and give it 1k power and hand on core until the end of the opponent's next turn. The variant that we saw in Hololive on the level 0 Toa gives 1500 power instead of 1k, but this one also has the top check 2 rearrange effect, which is a very nice effect to have. It allows you to rearrange top 2, make sure you're not triggering early climaxes. And so that also makes it a very cool card to use in standby decks, since you can rearrange top 2 in order to make sure that the standby is the second card from the top. You can attack with this Cocutus to give the buff, and then you can trigger the standby, play over the Cocutus with something new. So in that sense, this Cocutus is kind of like the level 0 Mio and the level 0 Toa in one card. Of course, you don't have the option to send cards from the top of your deck to waiting room like the Mio does, but still, a very, very strong card nonetheless. And one that I definitely think could see play in a lot of different builds, not just the standby build or the 2/0 event Ainz version. Here I have one of the Goblin cards. This one is an on reverse Rize for Carne Village, and you can also run as many copies of this card in your deck as you want. That's going to be a recurring trend among some of the Goblin cards, being able to run more than just 4 copies. Okay, let's see what else we got. Here we have another one of the Carne Village Goblin cards. Again, you can run as many copies of this as you want. If you have 2 or more other Carne Village characters, this gets plus 4k power. And notably, this card does have a soul trigger. So if you want to run a lot of costless characters that have soul triggers and be able to push a lot of damage, you might want to run a whole bunch of these Goblin Infantry core in your deck. And 6/5 beater, these cards are no slouch either. Okay, here we have the Horn of the Goblin General. So this is a cornerstone card of that Carne Village deck. You need an Enri in order to play this, and so that's why you're going to want to prioritize those Enri brainstorms so that you can have one on board to use this card. So you put this card into memory, and then it has 2 different effects that you can use while this card is in memory. So the first one is if you have exactly 1 copy of this in memory, you can discard a card in order to choose up to 3 Goblin Military Band or Goblin Heavy Infantry Corps, which are the 2 cards that we just looked at. You can choose up to 3 of these from your waiting room and put them in separate slots on stage. So that allows you to get a +2 because you're discarding 1 to get 3 cards. Using the first event is a -1 though, so the first instance of using this effect will just result in a +1 only, and then every subsequent instance of the effect will result in a +2. The second effect that you can use requires you to be level 3, and you need to have exactly 2 of this in your memory. So, and then you pay 2, discard 2. You can choose up to 3 copies of the Goblin Elite Guards, which is a level 3 goblin from your waiting room, and put them all on stage. So, one really notable thing about this event is that you do need to have exactly 1 copy of this event in your memory in order to use the first effect, and you need exactly 2 copies in order to use the second effect, because it doesn't say if you have 1 or more copies, it says if you have 1. And it doesn't say if you have 2 or more copies, it says if you have 2. So you need to have the exact number of copies that it specifies in your memory if you want to use those effects. But yeah, so this is a very powerful card to utilize with that Carne Village package, and allows you to constantly get lots of value and repeatedly put bodies onto the board, and allow you to save other resources for other things. So really cool card, and definitely a huge part of that particular deck. And I believe the level 1 Enri also allows you to bond into this one. Does it? Now this one allows you to cheat the event into memory in order to cheat out a Jugem from your hand onto the board. Okay. We have the 2/2 Albedo event. We have level 0 Lupus. This is not this particular card, but there's another card with this character that has a very interesting effect that also caused quite a bit of controversy in Japan when the set first came out. So we'll take a look at that when we eventually pull that card, but I believe it's a rare. We have level 1 Albedo for our rare. This is a on-play mill 2 and gain 1k per. And then during the turn she's placed on stage from hand. When she reverses her battle opponent, you can pay 1 to reveal the top 2 cards of your deck. Your opponent chooses 1 event or character from among them to put in your hand, and then you put the rest into the waiting room. So not the greatest version of these, like on the turn it was played, pay 1 plus 1 profiles, because you don't get to choose the card that you're getting, but still a card that you can play nonetheless. Okay, let's keep going. Here's the 3/2 Goblin Elite Guards. You can put up to 13 copies of this card in your deck. When placed on stage from hand or by the effect of the 1/1 event, you get to heal 1. And so if you use the Horns effect to spawn 3 copies of this, you get to heal 3, which is pretty cool. And then also on attack, if you have the level 3 Enri on stage, you can pay 1, discard 1 in order to deal 1 damage to your opponent. So allows you to get some burn 1s, and by using the 1/1 event to constantly spit out bodies, you get to save a lot of resources that you eventually get to use on cards like the Goblin Elite Guard's finisher ability. Okay, we have Demiurge, level 0, on play 15 anywhere, and on attack 15 anywhere. Pretty nice card if you want a bunch of buffs at any point in the game. And then we have an Evil Eye, tap self-salvage Brainstorm, that is designed to be a Pants Climax, Pants support card. So if you have a Climax in your Climax area and you trigger check any Pants Climax, you can discard any card in order to salvage a character. So this is an ability that we've seen previously in JP on Spriggan Kirito in Sword Art Online Light Novel 10th Anniversary, or at least a very similar version. That one didn't require you to have a Climax. And we've also seen this type of effect in Mob Psycho 100. This one does require having a Climax on stage, which is a bit of a downside, but the fact that it's also on a tap self-salvage Brainstorm makes this card extremely powerful overall, even though you do need a Climax for that condition. We have a couple Climaxes. All right. Let's get into, I believe this is the first pack of the left side of the box. Yep. And we still have a few double R's and foils to go, but it looks like we have a double R coming up. What do we have here? We have 3/2 Albedo. Very nice. So this 3/2 Albedo, we're actually going to come back to this one as well, as this one's part of the package. We have a level 0 Ainz, that is part of the Ainz package. And for our rare, we have a level 1 Albedo. This one forces both players to go down to 4 cards in memory. And also, when your other character with Grotesque Race or Nazarick attacks, you get 2,000 power on her until end of turn, so she can attack for 8k if she attacks last. Oh, it looks like we have another double R coming up. Is this the 3/2 Ainz? Ooh, very nice. We have the 3/2 Ainz that goes with this package. Now the only card left that we have to pull for the 3/2 Ainz package is the 1/1 Goats, the Dark Young event. And we will have the whole package and we can take a look at all of these cards. For our next uncommon, we have a level 0 Albedo Climax combo. This is a very interesting card. So she has an on-play effect. Or sorry, she doesn't have an on-play effect. She has during your turn, this gets 1k power. And then she has a Climax combo with Gold Bar, where when she attacks, if you have another Grotesque Race or Nazarick character and you have 6 or less hand, you can summon a Grotesque Race or Nazarick character of level 1 or level 0 or lower from your waiting room to the stage. And then for the put it on stage in an open slot, and then for the rest of the turn, you cannot attack 4 or more times. And so the way this ability is designed to work is it gets you free attackers that you can attack with, but a very interesting thing that you can do is you can actually chain multiple copies of this Climax combo together. So let's say your board looks like this, just like this. You have just Albedo and another character in the back row. So what you can do is you can attack with Albedo, summon a level 0 Albedo, another copy of itself to stage, and then you can attack with that one, summon another copy, and then you can attack with this, and you can summon another character to your back row. Because the characters that are coming in by the effect do not come in rested, they come in standing. So you can attack with a bunch of extra characters with the Climax combo. So really neat card. And then let's say you use Albedo's effect to spawn another Albedo in your back row, another copy of this. Then if you trigger another Gold Bar on your next turn, you can push that one up. You can use the Climax combo again and chain a bunch of Albedos once again. So allows you to get a ton of free value out of that Climax combo. You won't be killing a lot of stuff though, because these will only be attacking for just 4k power. And for our rare, we have level 0 Demiurge. If you have 2 or more other Grotesque Race or Nazarick characters, he becomes 3,500 power. And then he has a very interesting spin on a runner effect, where he needs to start in the front row center slot, and then he can move to either the left or right slot in the front row. So it obviously is a bit limiting compared to a center runner, where on a center runner you can start on either side and then run to middle. This one has to start in a specific slot, but it has the freedom to run in either direction. So pretty interesting card. All right. Oh, here we have the 2/2. All right, so now we have all of the cards for this package. We'll go ahead and take a look at the rare for this pack, and then we'll take a look at that particular package. We have a 2/1 Aura. This Climax combo allows you to choose, I forget exactly which Mare this summons. I think it summons a Mare from the first set. I'm not 100% sure on that one. But this card, when it's placed on stage from hand, she gets plus 3k until end of turn, and then has a pseudo climax combo ability where with any climax on reverse you get to blind stock 1. I'll have to go ahead and take a look at which Mare is summoned off of this 2/1 Aura, but I'll go ahead and I'll have a picture of it on screen for you guys so you guys know which card it summons. Okay, now let's go ahead and take a look at the Albedo package. So we're going to start with the 2/2, as this is the one that you're going to be seeing first. So the 2/2 Albedo is a front 1500 assist. It's a very popular card to bring out at level 1 when you're doing combos with the Ainz. So the Ainz, as I mentioned earlier, is just a 7500 body with no hand encore, but if you standby out the Albedo behind him, then he becomes a 9k body, much more respectable. And then she has a climax combo with standby, which is this standby right here. So she has a climax combo with standby that says pay 1, discard 1 card, and send her to waiting room. And you can only activate the combo if you're at level 2 or higher. Then you choose up to 1 copy of the 2/2 event in your waiting room, add it to your hand, and then you summon the 3/2 Albedo from your waiting room to the slot where the 2/2 was. At which point the 3/2 does get to heal. She can heal on play from hand or by the effect of the 2/2. Now, the 2/2 event, what this card does is you need to have the 3/2 Albedo on stage in order to use it at all. And it's basically a -3 soul counter that gets worse the higher level you are. So if you use it at level 2, it costs 2 stock and it gives 1500 power and -3 soul across to one of your characters. If you're at level 3, you have to pay 3 stock instead, and it no longer gives power. So it incentivizes using this counter while you're still at level 2 in order to just stay at level 2 for as long as possible. And basically, if you are tired of dying from level 2, this is the perfect deck for you to play, because not only does the 2/2 minus soul event work best when you're at level 2, the 3/2 Albedo has an anti-burn climax combo. So she has a climax combo that works with the exact same climax as the 2/2 that you use to bring her out. And that climax combo says, on attack, you burn 1 for free, and you also do not get burned by auto effect damage during this card's battle until the end of your opponent's next turn. So this can be a really good counter card if you're tired of getting killed by things like Gura that just deal a ton of damage and can kill you from level 2. So this is a really, really fun deck. I've tried this out myself, and it's a lot of fun. The main issue with the deck that you will want to focus on is getting back the level 3 Albedo standby climax multiple turns in a row, as she does not get the anti-burn anymore if you do not resolve the climax combo. So yeah, really cool package overall. What I think is really, really honestly so silly about this particular package is that the 2/2 climax combo doesn't actually minus at all, because you discard 1 for the cost of the combo, but you just salvage a copy of the 2/2 event back into your hand, and so you're not actually going -1 in hand. In fact, this 2/2 event is like the perfect card to discard for the cost of the combo, because you can always just get it back, which is really, really good. So yeah, basically in this particular build, what you want to be aiming to do is use a standby to bring out a 2/2 Albedo, maybe trigger a standby to bring out another one, and then on your next turn you want to combo bring out multiple copies of the 3/2, put pressure on your opponent, and at the same time lock them out of the game by using your 2/2 -3 soul event and the fact that the Albedo combo has anti-burn. So a lot of really, really cool synergies and a really, really strong idea from this particular standby package. All right. Let's move along. Still have quite a few packs left in our first box to look at. Okay. For our rare, we have a Demiurge Climax Swap, and it also has on play, you can mill 3 optional. So an alternative Climax Swap option to the yellow Climax Swapper from the first set, which allows you to bounce an opponent's front row cost 0 character. This one has some nice milling, which can be very useful for getting down to specific deck sizes or maybe milling extra standby targets into your waiting room. Okay. For a rare, we have Albedo Clean Cut. This card is just a pretty normal clean cut, and then during your turn, this gets plus 1,000 power. This card says, during your turn, this card gets plus 1,000 power until end of turn, so they're going to have to fix that. I'm going to have to ping Papa Bushiroad to see if they can get an errata on this Albedo. Papa Bushiroad, if you're watching, hi. Okay. And then we have the 3/2 Enri. This is the one that I said that you want to have in order to use the 3/2's burn ability. So this card is a back row. She has on play Salvage 1 Carne Village character, and also is a global 2K to all of your Carne Village characters. And then she has a climax combo with, I believe it's a Pants. Have we pulled it? Yeah, so she has a climax combo with a Pants climax. When you play the climax, if you have 2 or more other Carne Village characters, you can pay to discard 1 and deal damage to your opponent equal to the number of Goblin Elite Guards in your front row. So if you use the 1/1 event to summon 3 copies, then you can get a pay to ditch 1, burn 3. So burn 3, pretty good numbers, and then you can follow it up with the Goblin Elite Guards burn abilities as well. So you can do a lot of damage with the Carne Village deck endgame, actually. Okay. Oh, and then we did pull our 5th double R. So we have these 4 as well as the Ainz we pulled earlier. So 5th double R is the level 0 Cocutus. This card is a 0/0/15, but realistically he's 0/0/25 as he gets plus 1000 power if all of your characters are Grotesque, Race, or Nazarick. Additionally, during the opponent's turn, if you have another character on stage, he gets plus 1500 power, bringing him up to 4k, and he's a chaser. So a 4k chaser could be pretty annoying. You just kind of run in front of your opponent's characters and give your opponent a hard time. Kind of similar to how the Millim chaser works. And that time I got reincarnated as a slime, although he doesn't have as much offensive power, instead focusing on more defense with that 4k body. Pretty good card overall. But the fact that he is in blue makes him a bit of a less popular choice, as the main colors that you're mainly going to be focusing on for a Grotesque, Race, or Nazarick traded deck are probably red and green, as there are a lot of really powerful Albedo, Shaltir, and Ainz cards that a lot of decks tend to focus on. For our rare, we have 1/0 Nabe. So this is a card that lets you blind stock on reverse if you have any climax in the climax area. And when you place a climax, she gets plus 1500 power until end of turn. Pretty nice card if you're running the Demiurge level 1 line, which is a choice climax. As I mentioned just now, green and red are typically the more popular options for main colors in these decks, but the Demiurge level 1 RR is yellow and is a viable level 1 game plan, and Nabe is a pretty good card to run alongside him if you choose to run that combo. All right, let's take a look at our last pack. Can we pull the 1/1 event? Because I need that to talk about this package. All right, what do we got? It's a character. We have the 1/0 Sebas, which is a double drop search on the turn he's played. So this is a similar profile to the level 0 origami that we've seen in Data Live Volume 2, where on the turn that it's played, you can, on attack, pay 1, discard 2 to search 2. And additionally, when he's placed on stage from hand, if you have another Grotesque, Race, or Nazarick character, plus 2000 power until end of turn. Unfortunately, unlike the origami, this card is a level 1, meaning you cannot use it to set up your level 1 game, which is a bit unfortunate, but still a pretty nice card to have nonetheless if you want a little bit of extra utility and hand fixing. Could be a pretty good card to run in decks that run like Gold Bar or Pants Climax combos, because when you trigger those climaxes, you can use his effect after you trigger it to not only pay out the stock, it could be a blind stock for a Gold Bar or Pants Climax if you trigger Pants, and you can discard the Climax at the same time in order to replace it with something else from your deck. So a lot of innate synergy there. Okay, so that's going to conclude our first box. We still need to pull the 1/1 Goats event for the 3/2 Ainz package, so we're going to leave these over here on the side, and we're going to head right into our second box. We're going to go ahead and clean up, and we'll be right back. Okay, here we go, guys, getting into box number 2. So unfortunately, we weren't able to pull any really cool SP or secret rare from our first box, but surely this box will be different. All right, for our box topper promo for this box, we have the 2/1 Ainz. This is a level 2 or lower bomb. And also, when placed on stage from hand, you can choose a level 3 or lower character on your opponent's back row, and that character does not stand during your opponent's next stand phase. So, not the greatest card. Level 2 bombs are not exactly super popular, even with a bunch of level 2 profiles running around in the metagame, such as Alice and Muron. It's not a super popular profile that players tend to invest deck space in. All right, let's go ahead and get into our second box. Okay. Starting it off with the level 0 Ainz. This is the one we looked at in the first box that has a buff 1k and debuff 1k effect. Oh, we have a foil. Is that an SP? Ooh! I think it's SP Albedo. It is SP Albedo. Let's go. All right. So this is a card. This is not a card that we need to talk about the effects of because we already went over it in the first box. But this is definitely one of the chase cards that people are going to want to add to their collection for sure. Probably the main cards that people are going to be looking for are both of the secret rares as well as the sign cards for Albedo and Ainz. Ainz, of course, being a very prominent meta card, and the Albedo, while not being like a super meta card, is definitely a very strong card that you can run anyways. And of course, Albedo is probably the most popular character in Nazarick. So very, very nice pull. Let's go ahead and put that right there. And we have the Yumihara signature as well. Awesome pull. Okay. For our rare of the pack, we have the 1-0 Nabe. All right. Honestly, outside of a secret, this is probably the best card we could have asked for. I feel like this is a card that all of the Albedo simps are going to be super jealous when some of their friends pull this and they don't. This is going to be a card that a lot of people are going to be looking for. All right, let's keep going. For our rare, we have the Top Check 2 Cocutus. Oh, second foil of the box. We have the Level 0 Demiurge Climax Swap. This is another very usable foil card, as the Climax Swapper goes into basically any deck. So really nice pull. And it does have an alternate art compared to the normal version. So go ahead and put that right there alongside our Albedo sign. I'll go ahead and finish up this. We have the 1-1 Shaltir. Okay, for our first double R of the second box, we have another 1-0 Shaltir. And we have another 1-0 Albedo. No double R here. And for our rare, we have another copy of the 1-1 Ainz. Double R? Any double Rs? No double R here. And we have 3-1, a very interesting 3-1 event that just kills one of your opponent's level 3 or lower characters. This could actually be pretty useful if you want to really play for board with certain strategies, especially with certain game plans right now, such as 8 Standby Hololive, having a big emphasis on keeping characters on board in order to use specific cards like 3-2 Aki Rose or 0-0 Luna. That being said, you have better options to run in terms of events, so this is definitely not a super popular choice. But definitely one that you could consider nonetheless if you really want to clear your opponent's board. Okay, we have the 1-0 Sebas. Okay, no double R here. Have we not pulled this yet? Okay, so level 0 Shaltir Brainstorm. This is a tap 2 Brainstorm, which is not something that really sees a lot of use typically. But I'm a big fan of this card in the Ainz deck. So this card has 2 effects. The first one is at the beginning of your climax phase. If you have another character with Shaltir in its name on stage, you get to look at the top card of your deck and either leave it on top or send it to waiting room. This can be a really important card for making sure that your 1-1 events for the Ainz package don't get lost deep in your stock. And also just making sure that you do not trigger climaxes and have those get stuck in stock either. The Brainstorm is a pay 1, rest 2, mill 5, and then for each climax, you get to search your deck for a grotesque race or Nazarick character. So, so tap 2 Brainstorm and its search, again, typically not something that I would be a big fan of running, but it fits quite well into the Ainz deck. It gives you some pretty precise deck control, which can be pretty important as you get near the end of a deck cycle playing the Ainz deck. And for our rare, we have the rare 2-1. We haven't pulled any new rares yet, and we still haven't pulled the 1-1 Dark Young event either. For our rare, we have the 3-2 Shaltir. So this is the one that is placed from your hand off of the 1-1 if you have a marker. So this Shaltir has on-play heal, and then has a climax combo with a choice climax. Once per turn at the end of her attack, if you have no character across from her, or if she reversed the character across from her, you can pay 1 and reveal the top card of your deck. If that card is a grotesque race or Nazarick character, you can swap her with one of your other characters and then stand her. So it allows her to get an additional attack, allows you to get 4 attacks within a single turn, and also put a lot of pressure on your opponent. But as I said earlier, with the 1/1 shell tier, you do want to make sure that you already have a copy of this 3/2 in your hand before you decide to put a marker underneath her. Otherwise, you may just be losing your shell tier for free. All right, double R? No double R. Here we have another Tap Self Salvage Brainstorm for Albedo. And for our rare, we have the Tap Self Salvage Brainstorm for Eagle Eye. So we've only pulled one double R so far. Where are the double Rs? Where are they? Here we have the Lupus level 1 combo. So this card can be played from your hand without requiring color, but you would still need color to play the climax. So we'll get to some interesting stuff in a sec regarding that particular clause. So during your turn, this card gets plus 5,000 power, bringing her up to 7k before her climax, which is a choice. I believe it's this one right here. No, it's this one. Here we go. Cruel Nature. So she's climax combo with a choice. So the climax combo is when her battle opponent becomes reversed, if you have 2 or more other Grotesque Race or Nazarick or Carne Village characters, you can discard 1. If you do, you salvage 2. If you do not pay the cost, then you salvage 1. So basically, this card is either just an on-reverse salvage or a discard 1, salvage 2. Now, what's weird about this card, and there was a big controversy when this card came out in Japan. It had to be clarified in all of the like errata stuff and like on Twitter threads and things like that, is that people thought that based on the wording of this card and certain other cards, they thought that if you did not have the climax in the climax area, you could reverse your opponent's character. It would fulfill the condition of when this card's battle opponent becomes reversed. And then because you don't have the climax in play, you aren't given the option to pay cost. And because of that, they thought that you could salvage 1 for free. Because it says if you do not pay cost, you get to salvage 1. And this, furthermore, part of their argument as to why people thought that this should work is because this card says that you can play it from your hand without color requirement. So they figured, oh, I can play this card from my hand without color, but like you would still need the climax for color. So clearly this is designed to be played, to be playable without the climax. Obviously that's not the case. You do need the climax for any part of that climax combo. It was clarified in the comprehensive rulebooks or the Q&A or something like that, or maybe they had to errata this card. I'm not 100% sure, but they definitely clarified. That you do need the climax for any part of the climax combo. Yeah, that was definitely a very interesting part of Weiss history. And they had to go back and they had to like re-clarify with a bunch of other cards as well. All right. That being said, as far as the viability of this combo on its own, it is a very, very high power attacker being able to attack for 8k, but I think that the main downside of the card is just the fact that it is just an on-reverse salvage. It's not altering your deck state in any way. It doesn't offer you any deck speed. But as far as on-reverse combos go, this one is quite strong. Okay. And we have, for our double R, we have a normal version of the 3/2 Albedo. Nice. So now we've pulled 2 copies of this 3/2 Albedo in this box, and 3 copies overall. All right. Double R. We got another copy of Ainz. So far we have pulled, all 3 of our double Rs we've pulled so far have been duplicates. Oh, there we go. All right, we pulled the 1/1 event. Let's go ahead and talk about all these cards. So which one should I talk about first? Let's go ahead and start with, we should probably start with the 1/1 actually, I think. We'll go in this order, I guess. So the 1/1, actually, Jesus, I don't know which one to start with. We'll start with the level 0. Okay, so the level 0 has an ability it's exactly the same effect as the level 0 Bell from Danmachi, where at the start of your opponent's attack phase, you can pay 1, clock the top card of your deck, and bounce this Ainz and one of your other characters back to your hand. So this allows you to get a +2 in exchange for 1 stock and 1 damage, which is really good. It does open up your lanes, of course, to potentially make you take more damage, but if you mainly care about the value, then this is a really good card in order to allow you to maintain a lot of hand size. The other effect of this Ainz allows you to early play the level 3 Ainz at level 2. So it says if you are at level 2 or higher, you can pay 1, sack the Ainz, discard a card, and then summon the 3/2 Ainz from your hand. And so that allows you to get this on the board at level 2. All right, next let's talk about the 1/1. So the 1/1 is a level assist to characters in front. Additionally, he makes all copies of the 1/1 event cost -1 stock, so you can play this for 0 stock instead of 1 stock. And he has a climax combo with a gold bar climax, which is the same climax that you need to use for the 3/2. So we'll talk about that in just a sec. Let's move on to the 1/1 event. The 1/1 event requires that you have an Ainz on stage in order to play it. For this reason, there is actually a 0/0. There's a 0/0 Ditch Climax Salvage Shaltir that's in this set that, while she has a second effect of Global 500, it's actually recommended if you want to play a Ditch Climax Salvage, you should play the level 0 Ainz from the first set, which is a vanilla Ditch Climax Salvage, specifically because that card has Ainz in its name. Anyways, getting back to this card. So this Goats event, you can play 5 copies of it in your deck, and this is flavor because when Ainz summons the Goats to destroy the opposing army, he summons 5 of them. So you can run 5 copies in your deck. The actual event says that when it's played, you choose a Grotesque Race or Nazarick character from your waiting room, salvage it, and then you give one of your characters 1k power until end of turn. And then you send this card. You send this card to waiting room normally, and it has an effect that activates in memory, but you can't send it to memory by its own effect. Instead, the way you send it to memory is with the 3/2 Ainz. So the 3/2 Ainz, now that we've talked about the other 3 cards, he only has one effect, which is his climax combo. And it activates when you play the gold bar climax while he's in the front row, and you have another character. So the climax combo always heals 1, and then you choose one of 3 other abilities to activate alongside the heal. So the first ability is you can take up to 5 copies of this Goats event from your waiting room, and you can put them all underneath this Ainz as markers. And that's it. That's the entire effect. You just get the Goats as markers. The second effect that you can do is that you can send all of the markers to memory from underneath him. This is how you get them into memory. And you choose opposing characters equal to the number of characters, or equal to the number of markers you send to memory, and you kill them. If you send 5 markers, you kill your opponent's entire board. Their board's just gone. And so this does require that you get the gold bar climax multiple times, because you need to play the climax in order to get the markers, and then you need to play the climax again in order to send the markers to memory. And then the third effect that you can do is you can burn 1 and deal 2k to your, and then gain 2k. Not deal 2k, what am I talking about? Okay, so basically, the play pattern of this deck is you want to bring out the 3/2 Ainz at level 2 during your first deck rotation so that you have all of the Goats in your waiting room. Then you want to play the climax, and you want to get all of the Goats underneath him. Then you want to get another gold bar back into your hand. You want to play it again. You want to send all of these to memory. You want to blow up your opponent's entire board. And then you want to get the gold bar again. And then you just want to play as many of these Ainz as possible. Play the gold bar and then go burn 1, burn 1, burn 1. And so the Goats, while it's in memory, has an additional effect that says at the beginning of your encore step, if you have the 3/2 Ainz on stage, you can pay 1, discard 1 to deal 1 damage to your opponent. And you can activate this up to the number of times you have the Goats in your memory. So if you have all 5 Goats in memory, you can activate that up to 5 times. This can potentially result in allowing you to deal 1 damage to your opponent 8 times in a single turn. So you can do 3 Ainz, ping 1, ping 1, ping 1, 5 Goats, 5 ping 1s. So that's a ton of damage, and that is the end goal of this deck. Obviously, it takes a lot of setup and a lot of... you have to get the gold bar back into your hand 3 times, obviously. And so it requires a lot of things to go right but if everything goes right, then you can absolutely just blow up your opponent. So it's definitely a super fun deck to play. It can be a bit frustrating to play if things don't go right, and trust me, a lot of times things will not go quite the way you want. But when everything goes right, it's a ton of fun to play. But yeah, there's it's a lot of text. You have to know so much about these cards, and I'm pretty sure I forgot something. I definitely did forget something. This 1/1 actually does have a climax combo with the same climax as the 3/2. So the climax combo on the 1/1 says that when you play the climax, you get to choose one copy of your 3/2 Ainz, and until the end of the turn, it gets plus 4,500 power, allowing it to basically just run over anything your opponent has on board. And then during the opponent's next turn, the Ainz that you chose gets hexproof, meaning that your opponent cannot like bounce it with like a wind trigger or something like that, or send it to memory with like a on play, choose one of your characters, blink it effect. So that allows you to protect the markers. And additionally, it gains the effect until the end of the opponent's next turn. During the opponent's turn, the Ainz and the character across from Ainz cannot be reversed. And so this prevents your opponent from using anti-change bombs against him, which would also allow you to remove it from the board and get rid of those markers. So the one thing that you do need to watch out for, though, is anti-change counters, because the hexproof does not take effect until it goes over to your opponent's turn. So you might want to side attack. Just be wary of what set your opponent has, what options that they might have in order to prevent you from keeping your Ainz on the board and getting rid of those markers. All right, we can finally move on to the next pack. We've spent so much time talking about the Ainz package. All right, let's go ahead and get into our last few packs. We have the normal non-foil version of the 3/2 Shaltir that we pulled earlier in the first box. And I think we still have one double R to go. Okay, what do we have? Not here, which means it's in our last pack. We have 3/2 Evil Eye. This is an early play heal to stock if you have 2 or less climaxes in Waiting Room. A very vanilla card, but a good one nonetheless if you're looking for a healing option in your blue decks. All right, here we go. This one should have our last double R in it. What do we have? Looks like we have another copy of the 0/0 Cocutus. So we had another one of those situations where I pulled the exact same double R's in both of my boxes, except for the 0/0 Albedo. Instead, we traded that for an SP, which is very welcome. But we will have to look at some of the other double R's in our recap, which we'll get back to in just a sec. So that is it for our second box. We have our beautiful Albedo SP right here. And we'll go ahead and get back with the recap, show you guys some of the other SPs that we have as well, and as well as all of the double R's that we missed. So we'll be back in just a sec. All right, guys, we are back with our recap. Before we get into the double R's, there are a few promos that we are going to want to be looking at, a few pretty important reprint cards actually from the first set of Nazarick, so you won't want to worry if you don't have those cards from the first set and are struggling to secure copies of those. We have the 2/1 Aura. So this is a reprint of the Rest Counter, which was also a box topper promo from the first set of Nazarick. Pay for, discard a Grotesque Race or a Nazarick character to rest one of your opponent's characters. Very crucial card from the first set that was going for a pretty high price, and so the fact that you can pick it up very easily as a box topper promo in set 2 is very nice as well. 2 of the other reprints from these promos are from the Nazarick Trial deck. They don't have quite the same art, especially not the Albedo. I know the Albedo is a very beloved artwork, but we do have the 3/2 Albedo, and we have the 2/2 Cocutus, which was a very popular standby target in the first set. And so both of these can come as box topper promos as well. So definitely look out for all 3 of these in your boxes, as they are very, very good cards to add to your arsenal, especially if you didn't pick up a lot of the first set cards. All right, now then, let's get into our double Rs. So there are actually 5 double Rs that we failed to pull in our 2 boxes. So the first one being the 1/0 Demiurge. This is a card that I mentioned earlier. So this card has a Choice Climax combo. During your turn, plus 2k, so attacks for 7k with the Climax. On attack, you can choose one of 2 effects. You can either top check up to 4, add a grotesque race or Nazarick character from among them to your hand and send the rest to waiting room, or you can just salvage a level 2 or higher. And so this is a card that has seen a bit of play in a choice gold bar variant of the Ainz deck. It's not one that I'm particularly fond of, but it's definitely a build that I know a couple of my friends have played, and I've seen some other people play it in like Japan and things like that. So definitely an option. And honestly, it's just a really solid combo overall, even outside of the Goats build, to just run as just a generic level 1 combo that you can pair up with some other finisher from either of the 2 sets. Okay, next we have the 3/2 Nabe early play. So 4 more early play, and then gets 1,000 power for each card in your opponent's back row and on play heal. So a pretty ordinary card. 10-5 healer, 4 or more is a pretty good stat line. The fact that it's reliant on your opponent's back row is not the greatest condition, but most of the time your opponent is going to have 2 cards in their back row anyway, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. The next double R that we missed, we actually missed both Aura and Mare. So Aura is a Fukajiro. She has the effect where when she is sent from stage to a waiting room, you can discard a card to look it up to top 4, add a level 1 or higher, which is a very nice effect, especially if you're playing a deck that wants to grab event cards or have specific higher level characters in your hand. Just having the option to get through some of your deck is always really good as well. And her other effect on play 1500 allows you to beat over some of your opponent's bigger level 0 characters. For the Mare, this Mare is actually a card that sees more play outside of a deck that has his Climax than not. So he has a Climax combo that says when he attacks, if you have his Climax in the Climax area, you can pay 1, discard 1 in order to deal 2 damage and also gain 1k until end of turn, which is honestly a pretty good effect. It's basically like what Marine combo is, burn 2, gain some power for pay 1, discard 1. But the second effect is a bigger reason why people would play him. So he has an on-play effect. You can either heal 1 or you can half Fumio your opponent. That is, you can force your opponent to shuffle back all cards from their waiting room into their deck except for 1 Climax. And so typically you will see this card run as a 1-of just for that Fumio effect in decks, in like basically any deck that runs green. Any deck that runs green, you can play 1 copy of this Mare and get use out of that effect. Okay, next up we have level 0 Ainz. This is a drop search on play and also has a secondary plussing effect. When it gets reversed in battle, you can clock the top card of your deck, look at up to 2 cards from the top of your deck, add a level 1 or lower character from among them to your hand, or add 1 event of any level from among them to your hand, and then send the rest to waiting room. So this is a really good card if you want a little bit of extra plussing on top of your utility. It sees a lot of play in the Ainz deck because the Ainz deck does not run a lot of high-level characters. It runs usually around like 8 or 9 misses for this effect, which makes it really hard for it to miss. And this is an effect that we have seen previously in Kobayashi's Dragon Maid on a level 0 Lukoa. Although the Lukoa did not have that secondary effect of the drop search, which does make this card quite a bit more powerful. Yeah, definitely a very nice card overall. And yeah, that's the last double R we missed. We missed these 4 and the Ainz drop search. And so now we've gone over all of our double Rs. I think probably the ones that you're going to want to be looking for the most are the Aura as well as the Ainz. These 2 are, first of all, the Aura, just a universally useful card. And the Ainz, of course, being the star of the meta build of Nazarick, you're definitely going to want to be looking out for this card as well. Of course, these 3 are definitely no slouches. The level 3 Albedo being very strong for the standby deck, Shaltir being a very popular choice for Ainz, and the Ainz Drop Search just being a very strong card as well. But yeah, all of these cards are really useful, honestly. Even the ones that are not valued as high, things like the Cocutus and the Demiurge, both very strong cards in their own right. Just if you were to analyze those cards in a vacuum, they are all quite strong. All right, now then, to finish off our review, we of course have to take a look at some of our SP cards, some of the ones that you guys are going to be looking out for in your boxes. We've already seen the 3/2 Albedo, but we also have the level 1 Shaltir. We have the 3/2 Ainz, the 3/2 Nabe, the level 0 Cocutus, level 3 Mare, level 1 Demiurge, and we also have level 0 Aura, which we did not pull from our cases. And we also have 2 secret rare cards, one of them being the level 0 Ainz Drop Search, and the other one being the 3/2 Albedo. We did not pull that one either, unfortunately. The 2 secret rares are signed by the illustrator for the Albedo sign card, and the author of Overlord for the Ainz secret rare. So both very, very beautiful cards using some of that light novel art. And yeah, so a lot of really cool cards to look forward to trying to pull in your Overlord boxes. If you have already pulled some of the boxes yourself, go ahead and let us know down in the comment section below if you guys pulled anything cool, as well as who your favorite characters are in the Nazarick series. Yeah, go ahead and let us know down in the comment section below who are some of your favorite characters from Nazarick, and if you guys pulled anything that you deem worthy of letting us know, because we're always down to share in your good fortune. And until next time, this has been Randall, aka Shizukats, on the Tressa's Collectibles channel. Be sure to look out for our future Nazarick content, including our deck profiles and gameplay videos, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!